Welcome back, everybody, to another boot-smoking episode of Lockdown 23 in 1. That's right, a kidnapper's going to be getting his boot smoked for sure today. What exactly is getting your boot smoked, a lot of people might be asking. It's a term, a hypothetical term, that inmates used to use on other inmates that came out of the courtroom and got more time than expected. We would say to them, man, your state boots got smoked, didn't they? Meaning you got a lot of time in prison, man. It's kind of like pouring salt on a wound. Get a couple good laughs from the other inmates, but of course, you know, some people, they pick and choose. They got a real killer or a high-up gang member coming into the tank after getting sentenced to a lot of time. If someone were to say to them, man, you got smoked, chances are it'd be his death wish. So, you know, inmates pick and choose who to pour salt on the wounds to. But that's where the whole hypothetical smoke phrase comes from, for anybody that doesn't know. Anyways, the defendant, like I said, is going to be sentenced for kidnapping, along with a couple other charges, not to mention he's completely shocked by the amount of time he gets, which blows my mind. But of course, before we get into all that, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today.
Yes, Your Honor, I have reviewed the pre-sentence report as well as the additional evaluations that were conducted in regards to this matter.
All right, before we get to the sentencing, I want to read the explanation of duties to register to Mr. Wyatt and ask him to place his signature on it, indicating that he's been advised of these duties. The county of conviction is Lake.
In other words, I believe he's being registered as a sex offender. Also, I asked a question in the last one, how do sex offenders have to register? You know, how do people know who's who? Moving into your neighborhood, right? Someone said that they let people know through mail, and I heard other things, but I've never seen it not once in my life. And I've done the apps where you can search the people around you if they've got any crimes like that, and they're all around me. I've never gotten a letter not once.
23 CR 047, conviction under 2907.05A1, gross sexual imposition, Paul A. Wyatt III. You've been convicted of or pleaded guilty to a sexually oriented offense as defined in 2950.01, and you are a two-tier sex offender. You are required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish residency within 3 days of coming into that county, or if temporary domiciled for more than 3 days. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of education immediately upon coming into that county. If you establish a place of education in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with the sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state immediately upon coming into that state. You are also required to register in person with the sheriff of the county in which you establish a place of employment if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. If you establish a place of employment in another state but maintain a residence or temporary domicile here, you are also required to register in person with the sheriff or other appropriate official in that other state if you have been employed for more than 3 days or for an aggregate of 14 days in a calendar year. Employment includes volunteer services. You are required to provide proof to the sheriff, temporary lodging information, including the address and length of stay if your absence will be for 7 days or more. After the date of initial registration, you are required to periodically verify your residence address, place of employment, and or place of education in person at the county sheriff's office no earlier than 10 days prior to your verification date.
So as you can see, a registered sex offender has a whole nother bracket of rules and regulations they gotta follow. And almost guarantee when they get out, they're gonna be on probation or parole as well, which is a whole nother list of rules and regulations they gotta follow. He's got his work cut out for him when he's released, if he's released. Now, I know this guy's in here for kidnapping, but I have no idea how much time he's gonna get. A lot of people are hearing these things of what he's gonna have to do when he gets out and is thinking that maybe he's gonna be getting out soon. Even the defendants think like that sometimes. I remember they were talking about probation and all this, that, and the third. I thought I was going home one day. Reinstated. Think again, man. I went right back to prison. So even though they're talking about the steps of what you're going to do when you're released, sometimes these guys ain't released for 70 years later. They're going to forget every word that judge said. But this guy's got kidnapping. In most states, that runs about 25 to 50 years in prison.
Failure to register, failure to verify residence at specified times, or failure to provide notice of a change in residence address or other required information as described above will result in criminal prosecution. The next line says, you acknowledge the above requirements have been explained to you and that you must abide by all the provisions of the Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 2950. And Mr. O'Connor, if you could have your client sign on the signature line below line 11, please.
All right, so we got the attorney about to speak on the behalf of the defendant, and usually, typically, they do the same thing. You know, with individuals that are guilty, they try to show the good things that he's done or explain reasons on why he done these things, maybe a past childhood event, you know, something to kind of possibly lighten or soften up the judge to give him a better sentencing. I mean, how can you defend a defendant if they're guilty? 100%, right? It's kind of tough. So just take that into consideration with some of these guys and cut them some slack, man. They ain't got much to work with.
All right, as to the sentencing hearing, Mr. O'Connor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, in regards to sentencing, as the court aware, there are certain factors the court has to consider in determining what is the appropriate sentence here. In particular, there are certain factors we would ask the court to consider, is if there's substantial grounds in regards to mitigation. We understand that this mitigation is not a defense. It doesn't make his actions right. But we think it's important in knowing Mr. Wyatt in his past in regards to his substance use. Mr. Wyatt was raised by his parental grandmother for most of his life. As a child, he lost his grandmother when he was 13. That had a very dramatic impact on his health from there, in which, as a teenager, not knowing how to deal with stress, how to deal with loss, he turned to substance use. He, in the PSR and with Dr. Rinsberg, one can see, as he talks about it, how over time he began to let substance use control his life. He used to be active in sports, was potentially looking at college, and by the time he graduated, he was barely able to do so and was no longer pursuing any career in sports. Ultimately, his substance use got him in trouble in Cuyahoga County. Initially, they did consider him for a diversion program there. However, he was in need of help, more serious help, and ultimately when he picked up charges the next year, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. During this time,
so he's already done 5 years in prison. Look, whenever a judge hears that, it makes the sentencing much easier because you've been to prison. You ain't learned your lesson. But just like I said, the defense attorney's pretty much giving out a bunch of sweet nothings. This guy's story is just like many others, man. Barely graduated high school, man. Had a lot going for him in sports and ended up taking the dirty, filthy drug route, right? And all your hopes and dreams disappear. So take it from me and this guy, you know, make the right choices while you're young, because the wrong one could send a ripple in that pond called time that could last forever.
It's been clear to myself, to probation, to Dr. Rinsberg, to probation, that he needs help, and he knows he needs help. The day of the offense, due to the fact that he had still obviously not addressed his substance use, he smoked a joint once he was lost in Painesville, and was not of right mind when this all occurred. It doesn't make what happened that day okay. He recognizes that, and he will never try to say it makes it okay.
All right, I got to stop it right here, right now. He said a jaybird caused him not to be in the right state of mind. Hell nah. He was in the wrong state of mind to begin with. I can almost guarantee he already planned and plotted what he was going to do while he was sober and smoked that jaybird before he did it, as a little sprinkle to his dessert type of thing. But before we move forward, man, I got to get this done and over with. A quick courtroom analysis. Oh, my lucky stars. The trim and furniture in this courtroom is made from some of the rarest oak in Tennessee, coming straight from the secret city itself of Oak Ridge. This is sandpost oak, or Corsicus geminata. It has been designated as a species of special concern in Tennessee. Efforts are underway to conserve it, including collecting scions, branch tips, for grafting onto other post oak rootstock. Sandpost oak is durable, decay resistant. The acorns produced on this tree are nutrient food source for animals like deer, turkeys, and squirrels. But to pair it with the armadillo spliced AI Teflon lined chairs is unreal! And across from it, is that an Elon Musk self-projecting projector? Oh my goodness! Everything aligned perfectly with the church pantry food carpet. You can smell the canned foods from here. And last but not least, ordered straight from Dubai. even rarer than the sandpost oak. We got the Roblox 2D Timberwood in here. This courtroom by far. It's a 10. Man, I love those courtroom analysis. But look, we're gonna bypass a few things and jump right into the defendant, speaking his mind before he gets sentenced.
But we'd ask the court to take all of that into consideration when making sentencing.
Thank you. Mr. Wyatt, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence in this case?
I just want to say I'm thankful that she ain't killed me. I'm sorry that this happened. You know what I'm saying to you, and I'm just thankful that you didn't have no gun to kill me, because by right you could have killed me.
Oh man, this dude's looking directly at the victim. And it seems like he don't care if he goes to prison or not. He's just thankful that he didn't get killed. Which kind of makes sense, because yeah, he definitely could have. And I got 4 daughters, man. You know, it sucks because I'm a felon. I can't teach them how to use a gun, but I promise I'm gonna lead them in the right shooting range to do so. Even though I don't go to shooting ranges or know anything about them, you know, my daughters need to be prepared.
I was all the way out of my mind. You could have really killed me.
You haven't addressed the court, Your Honor.
You could have took, huh?
Let him talk. I'll handle this, okay?
Ooh.
What'd you say?
Never mind, okay?
Yeah.
If
I'm just thankful that they didn't kill me. The police didn't kill me. She didn't kill me. That's what I'm thankful for. Like, the situation happened. I'm sorry it happened. I apologize for everything that happened. The mental, everything that's going on right now. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. Everything else I say would be sounding like excuses. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how I can show y'all or make it better. I don't know what to do but go to jail. But I'm sorry. You feel me? I'm sorry.
All right, Mr. Skygridge.
Thank you, Your Honor. The victim, Susan First, would like to address the court.
Well, the victim's gonna speak. And typically I don't bring these on the channel, but I'm kind of lost as to exactly what he did. Maybe she'll break it down a little bit.
I just would like to start with the fact that the second time I saw Mr. Wyatt was when he was standing in front of a police officer, the first police officer I saw throughout all this. And 911 had already been called for him because a white woman had assaulted him. That white woman was me. That's when I finally got free from him choking me, because I got my hand free and I swung as hard as I could and I dropped to the ground. That was it. 2 guys came up and then they helped me. They chased him to where that police officer was. So on January 9th, my life changed.
I will read it, Your Honor. On January 9th, 2023, my life changed when I was assaulted while walking at lunchtime and my attacker grabbed me around the neck. He pulled me across the street at Jackson and Richmond while choking me and finally stopped at the side door of Chipotle. He told me what he planned to do, and I pulled my hand free and started pounding on the door and screaming for help at that time. When he touched me again, I swung as hard as I could and hit him in the face and dropped to the ground. No one from Chipotle came to my help, but 2 men from Mr. Muffler came running across the street and yelling at the guy.
Shout out to those Mr. Muffler employees, man. Y'all built like that. Chipotle cats ain't do nothing. Maybe they're too busy rolling burritos and didn't see it, you know? That's the place that rolls burritos, right?
They became my angels at this point and checked to see if I was okay before running after the guy. They chased him to McDonald's, and the next time I saw him, he was sitting on the ground in front of McDonald's with a police officer standing over him and several deputies and firemen in the area. I was asked to identify him twice, and 3 of the deputies walked me closer while keeping me behind, and then stepped aside to let me get a closer look. I made my statement with the deputy, while 2 men did the same while standing outside the vehicle. I was so grateful that they were willing to take the time to help me out and make their statements about the horrible incident that had just occurred. I was taken back to my place of work until a female officer came to pick me up and take me to the police station for a recorded interview about what had just occurred. It didn't feel real, even though I felt like I answered the same questions many times over. At the station, I was interviewed, which was hard, but they were very professional and tried to make it as easy as possible for me. I lost my voice for about 3 weeks, and it seemed like my entire life was scheduled around what was happening with the case involving my attacker or waiting to hear what was to come. I didn't go out much during that time and didn't even feel comfortable walking through the intersection where I was assaulted and had walked almost every day. My brother brought me pepper spray, and I still carry it whenever I'm walking with or without company. I hated being afraid to walk again and felt it necessary to carry that pepper spray. I often turned down invitations due to what I went through and just didn't feel comfortable. It took me about 4 to 5 months to get the nerve to walk through intersection, and I am feeling better about it now, still carrying the pepper spray. I was notified about the grand jury and couldn't bring myself to attend, and the interviewing detective spoke for me, that for which I was grateful. I didn't have a voice for those 3 weeks, but I still got a lot of calls from family and friends wanting to check on me. Seems like a lot of things were put on hold during that time, as we were always waiting to see what my assailant's next move would be, plead guilty or going before grand jury. Every time I got a call regarding him, it was very seldom good news. My advocate was wonderful through all of this.
An advocate, ladies and gentlemen, is someone that stands in the courtroom and speaks on your behalf. And shout out to those individuals because, typically, they got to break down some very heinous situations to the judge. And I can only imagine hearing those kind of stories every day can be strenuous on the mental.
And so it continues. Today is a pretrial. This is dated August 22nd, 2023. The subject decided he didn't want to work with his attorney anymore. So my brother, Pat, Sherry, and I showed up at the courtroom, and there he was again. Judge O'Donnell kept control of the hearing, and the defendant the whole time we were there. All the defendant talked about was his drug problem and how his attorney wasn't helping him. The judge explained to him that it wasn't his job and his attorney was supposed to use the facts of the case and advise him of his best choices. When it was over, the judge told him he would be in the court the next day. Once the judge left the courtroom, everyone got up to leave, and as the defendant walked past us, he stopped directly in front of us and asked, "How you doing?" It took us all by surprise and not in a good way. The deputy yelled at him and told him not to talk to us as well, at all. We were all shook up since we weren't expecting any contact at all. It took a while to work through, but that won't happen again.
Man, I can't imagine, all the ladies out there that's been in a situation similar to this, and you got the individual that did it saying something to you as he leaves the courtroom. That should never be allowed, but of course, how can someone control another person's voice? I have seen someone in the courtroom get their mouth duct taped, so that could always be an option with these type of cases, but either way, yeah, I would have been scarred a little bit more hearing that fool ask me, "How are you doing?"
8:23. Another hearing today supposedly is going to plead guilty tomorrow morning. A time will be set for the sentencing and my impact statement should be ready. Pre-sentence report will be done and 9:15 and then 9:05 should be getting close to the end. So I sit and wait. 10:25. This is the last date I've received regarding the case sentencing here.
Well, it sounds like the victim is very detailed with the times and dates of everything going on and wanted the courts to know that it was very important to her. But we already found out pretty much what exactly he did. People get ran up on in broad day around other individuals and get kidnapped all the time. So don't think it's that rare of a situation. But let's go ahead and bypass a few more things and jump into what the judge has to say about the situation, which is going to roll into the sentencing as well.
All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report and the psychological evaluation as well as the past evaluations, including Jones Wood Psychological Associates done in June of '03. I've reviewed the victim impact statement. I've listened to the victim, listened to Mr. Wyatt, listened to counsel. I've considered all provisions in 29-29-11, 29-29-12, and 29-29-13. And I'm going to determine you're not amenable to community control. Now,
and community control, for anybody that doesn't know some of these words, community control is pretty much another word for probation. And probation is a court-ordered period of supervision where an offender's freedom is restricted with the community instead of jail or prison. Also, you heard the term pre-sentence report, or you hear it in some places called a PSI. It's pretty much the background of the individual in the situation. Typically, it's made by the probation officer and sent to the judge. It'll speak about the offense, the defendant's criminal and social history, victim information, all this stuff that the judge was pretty much just naming. He's letting the people know that he's doing it by the book. He's seen every angle to this case, and this is what's coming his way.
Ms. First didn't want to mention the things that were said to her. I read the things that were said to her. I can understand why she didn't want to restate those, because they were horrific. What you said, what you did, what you threatened to do. To somebody who was walking down the street, minding her own business, is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
You stated to me that it wasn't your intention, that you were going to Bedford or something to shop with your cousin or whatever it was. You didn't intend to come to Lake County. You didn't intend to accost her on the street, but you did. I think during your statement blamed it on Kate or whatever it was, okay, that put you out of your right mind, but you're responsible for what you did.
Right.
Okay? If you put a substance into your body that got you high or out of your mind or whatever you want to call it, that's on you. Okay? You're responsible for that. You're responsible for the actions that follow that.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sober or an altered state of mind means nothing, man. You decided to do it, and now you're going to pay.
And to a certain extent, you're right. You don't have any sex offenses, okay? But you've got a history of violence. You've got a history of theft. And about 8 years ago or so, you got an F3 grand theft in Cuyahoga County that you were placed on diversion for. In November of 15, by February of 16, by the beginning, so 6 weeks, 7 weeks later, you violate because you just didn't report. So you didn't perform anything with regard to the diversion. So it was unsuccessfully terminated. And 2 months after you got that diversion, you got a theft charge in Bedford, a theft charge a couple months after that with the RTA police, a theft in August in Shaker Heights, and then the big one, August 28th of 16, you get an aggravated robbery with a firearm spec and a CCW with a firearm spec. So in November of 16, you get sentenced to 5 years on the ag robbery with a 1-year firearm spec and a concurrent sentence on the F3 theft. So you went to prison December 6th of 2016, released September 5th of 2021, put on 5 years of post-release control. And reading from the notes that were garnered from the Adult Parole Authority, says that you were never in compliance and had many issues on parole, including having weapons, drugs, and being a violator at large, so you didn't report. So after your release on September 5th of 21, you had conditions that you had to comply with, that you complied with none of them, and in fact affirmatively violated the law beyond your obligation on post-release control. So you were given a sanction of 9 months in prison for a violation. That was April 26th of 22, released on December 30th of 22. So that was your sanction. You're back on parole, December 30th, 22. You were arrested on this one on January 9th of 23. So 11 days later, you get arrested. 10 days later.
He's looking at the judge like, man, I forgot about all these.
January 8th, there's a charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle, which there's an outstanding warrant issued for that, so that's a day before this. And then you come out here on January 9th, for whatever reason, lost or not lost, you come out here. Miss First is walking down the street, and you attack her. And you grab her around the neck and you choke her. You sexually assault her. And then, luckily for her, she garnered up the strength to whack you in the face with a fist and got away. And then, apparently, when the police happen upon you, you're talking about being assaulted by her, which is unbelievable to me.
Wow, this dude's definitely bottom of the barrel.
So there is no excuse for what you did. Mr. O'Connor said when you were 13, your grandmother died. Okay, okay, but that was 17 years ago. Everybody, if they're born with a grandmother, their grandmother dies. Everybody, if they're born with parents, their parents die. Okay? But that doesn't excuse anything. That's not an excuse. It's not an explanation. Okay? You've led your life in such a way that your concern has always been on yourself, what you could get, how you could get high, how you could, apparently, and by your own admission, you know, you've been a thief. You take things from other people. So your concern has been focused on you for your entire life. Now, there's people that have bad upbringings that don't do that. So it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse to blame your environment, okay? You're a product of your environment. The question is whether you're going to do anything to change so that you're not a negative product of your environment, so you can be a positive product of your environment. And you haven't done that, okay? So all this culminated in a woman walking down the street getting choked and sexually assaulted because of you, okay? And there's no excuse, and there's got to be accountability for it. So that's where we're at. So if I didn't say it yet, I've considered all provisions in 292911, 292912, and 292913. On count 1, the kidnapping, I'm going to sentence you to a definite term of 11 years to an indefinite term of 16 and a half years in prison. On the repeat violent offender specification, I'm going to sentence you to 5 years, and that by law is consecutive to the 11 to 16 and a half. On count 2, gross sexual imposition, 18 months. That'll be concurrent. Count 4, receiving stolen property, 18 months concurrent. And count 5, assault, 180 days concurrent. Now, the indefinite portion of the sentence on count 1 is in the control of the Department of Corrections. You will go to prison. The Department of Corrections has criteria by which there's a presumption you should be released after the 11-year, the definite portion of that, but they can, depending on their criteria and your compliance with their criteria, keep you, but no longer than 16 and a half years. And as I said, there's a presumption you should be released at 11. So it's a total sentence of 16 years at a definite minimum, up to 21 and a half years on the indefinite side. And the costs are assessed. The remaining charges are dismissed. When you get out, you're going to be on post-release control for 5 years with conditions. If you violate the conditions, the parole authority could return you to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. If your violation is a new felony, you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for that violation, the maximum of which is the greater of 12 months of the time you have left under your post-release control.
Well, I said 15. The judge clarified it. It is a 16 minimal year sentence. Chances are, though, that kind of paperwork going into the prison system, he might not make it to see that 16. In the right cell block, shoot, he might not even make it a couple weeks.
Is there anything further from the state?
You just said how much, what you just
Is there anything further from the state?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Is
Thank
there
you.
anything further from the defense?
What did you say?
He gave you 11 and a half.
Mr. O'Connor, anything further?
Not for me, Your Honor. I do believe that
you say
Mr. Wyatt
that
had one
again?
clarification on the amount of years he should serve.
A definite minimum of 16 years and an indefinite maximum of 21 and a half years.
But that's rap, ladies and gentlemen. If you were to ask me, that one was highly satisfying. Especially hearing him at the end say, "But how much time did you say I got, Your Honor?" You heard him correctly, bro. Don't act like you didn't. And you knew damn well what you were doing, attacking that elderly woman in the middle of broad day. Seems like she gave him a good fight and messed up his plans. Who knows? What if he got her and took her in that car and got away? Shout out one more time to the Muffler boys, man. Y'all saved her life. And the Chipotle workers not helping, I'm still giving y'all the benefit of the doubt, man. Y'all were just busy rolling them burritos, right? Just maintaining that bag. Gotta make sure the bills are paid, and when that's taking place, you're not witnessing any crimes happening around you, man. You're just watching the burrito. And what about the sand post oak, man? It's unreal seeing that in there. Not to mention the Roblox timber and the AEI Teflon armadillo chairs. Every single time I do a courtroom analysis, my joy meter rises. Hopefully it does the same thing for y'all, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm out of here. If you enjoyed and you're new to the channel, of course, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave. And more importantly than anything, y'all be easy, be safe, and stay free.